want to be safe. We all want to be warm. We all want to feel loved, know the comfort of home. Want our children to grow, learn to make their own sound. Seems to me we all walk on common ground. Common ground.
Common ground. That's what we're looking for. Common ground. I don't know if you saw this a couple of nights ago, Colbert. He talked about Toby Keith, who was a terrific country western performer, outstanding in his own right. But Colbert talked about how he created a relationship with this guy. He decided, I'm just going to accept him for who he is and realize that he's got reasons for being who he is, and I've got reasons for being who I am. And I'm going to try to talk to him, and we're going to have a relationship. And he said we ended up having a real relationship. We got together a few more times, and we enjoyed each other's company, and we talked about things. And he moved a little bit closer to where I am, and I moved a little bit closer to where he is because I understood him better. And he said, maybe if we could figure out how to do that more often, we'd be in a better place. But there's so much stacked against us right now, especially when it comes to this coming up election, which it is the most important election in my lifetime and maybe in the life of the country, because this election could end what this country stood for. It could end the experiment, the experiment in democracy and self-rule. It will do that if Donald Trump is elected, and we can't let that happen. How do we do that when we have gerrymandering, suppression of all sorts, throwing people off voter rolls for very inappropriate reasons, if not illegal reasons, and most important, number one factor of all when it comes to voter suppression is the Electoral College. The Electoral College.
Yeah, it's a hopeless mess. There's, people say, well, we need to get rid of the Electoral College. Well, you should start reading about the origins of the Electoral College and how enmeshed it is in everything. And there's no way, you can't just go in and say, okay, take the Electoral College out. It is in the Constitution, but nowhere is it actually written, the words, the Electoral College. So, in my opinion, yeah, we don't need the Electoral College. However, you're not going to get rid of it. You're just not going to. So you have to find another solution.
Well, we can't get rid of it for this election. That's for damn sure. That ain't going to happen. But we sure have to start thinking about if we survive this election, if we're able to get past November 5th, 2024 intact, we have to get rid of the Electoral College.
You're not going to get any traction on the idea of doing that until re-election for large masses of our representatives.
Right.
It's the only thing they care about. The old joke was like the guy gets voted into the House of Representatives, and the first thing he says is, "That's great. How do I do it again?"
Yeah, right.
And those guys have to raise, I've heard, $40,000 a day before their next, before they, I think there's 6-year terms in the House. Is that right?
In the House, it's 2-year terms. It's 6-year terms in the Senate. But every day, in order to get reelected, you're absolutely right. They have to raise ridiculous amounts of money, and they have to spend time doing that. Time that they can't spend governing and getting things done.
Right. So what do? They go to the deep wells. They can't get $12 from everybody the way Bernie did. I mean, he did. So I don't know how they can't. But the idea of going to, I think if you talk to any rational person, you say, well, you can either go to 100,000 people today and get $1. Or you could go over to Freddie over there. He's got it in his pocket. He can give you the whole 100 right now. And he'd like to. You just have to do some things for him.
Right.
And that's the way it is.
And there's the key right there, the operational phrase. You just got to do a few things for him. He's not going to give you $1 billion for nothing. He's going to give you $1 billion because it's a really good investment, because his return on that investment, if you become elected, is extraordinary. Okay. His return on that investment could be 100 times what he gave you, or 1,000 times what he gave you per year while you're in office. So it's a very, very lucrative investment, very smart thing for someone to do. Yep.
It's a funny thing how everybody goes into Congress as pretty much a regular guy and they come out millionaires.
The whole point here, I think, is the Electoral College is an enabler of money's power in politics, because what you're juggling is 6 to 8 states are sadly what decide every election now. 6 to 8 states. And they ain't the states on the borders. They're the states in the middle of the country. So you have 30 to 40% of the nation's people making the decision about who's going to be the president and who's going to be this and that, etc. Everybody gets 2 senators, which is absurd. You have 2 senators for California with 44 million people, and you have 2 senators for both North and South Dakota with 4 million people. So, or four senators. Those 2 states get 4 senators. They total 4 million people. So, this is an absurdity, and it's not working anymore. The Electoral College was set up for a lot of reasons, but the main thing that they found over time was they could really manipulate elections utilizing the Electoral College. Let's take, for example, this election. If only Donald Trump and Joe Biden was running, with all of Donald Trump's problems and litigations and everything, it's pretty sure that he would lose. It's sad that he will have as many votes as he gets, but he probably would lose. However, and he'd lose because Joe Biden would get 270 electoral votes or more. Okay. If you add to that mix Robert Kennedy Jr., Joe Manchin and no labels, and whoever knows what else running independently, it is highly likely that 1 or 2 states, remember, you only need really 6 states to win. If 1 or 2 states falls short of the electoral votes needed, it's highly likely that no one will get 270 electoral votes. And if you don't get 270 electoral votes, then it goes to the House of Congress, and 438 congressmen, who right now outnumber by only, I think, 3 congressmen, the Democrats, they make the decision. They choose who wins the election. They choose that person. Your vote means nothing. They make the choice. And of course, whoever's in majority, right now it's Republicans, they'll choose their candidate. Of course they would. Why wouldn't they? So if more people run in this next election, the Electoral College will hand it to the Republican Congress, and they will pick Donald Trump. That's the mess we're in right now. And that's why you're so right about the Electoral College. So bear that in mind. Realize that we have to vote in numbers too big to rig and too real to steal. Nobody stays home this time, because if you do, we're going to lose this thing. And I mean, we're going to lose it all, everything. We're all going to learn what it feels like to live in a dictatorship where the purpose of leadership is retribution and making people miserable and being cruel. And I don't want to live in a country like that. All right, one last thing. We got a thing going on today, right now, as we speak.
Yes.
Oral arguments in the Supreme Court of the United States. SCOTUS is deciding or listening to people tell it why Donald Trump should not be allowed on the ballot because of insurrection, and other people saying why he should be allowed on the ballot because, heck, he's just an insurrectionist. Who cares? Come on. That silly little, that thing called the Constitution.
They were nice people.
Right.
On both sides.
Right.
Those 5 dead policemen have nothing to do with you. Do you know them? Of course you don't. What's the difference?
So
that phrase should be stricken from the language that we speak. What's the difference? There is a huge difference. If nothing else, then the president gets to put people on the Supreme Court. And every circuit, everywhere, he gets to put them in. It's probably the single biggest thing that he does. It shouldn't be, but it is.
The Supreme Court has the power to interpret law. And so that means they have the power to change the nature and the function of liberty and freedom and the pursuit of happiness.
There's a lot of people on the side of Roe v. Wade and a lot of people on the other side of Roe v. Wade. It was only changed because of all the work that was done behind the scenes to put people, these guys, the only reason they're there was to do that. Everything else is icing. Oh boy, right. We can screw with this and that and the other thing.
Actually,
if you want to like take a lesson in language I don't know, that is my native language, just watch these guys speak. Watch them ask a question. Watch them return fire on the question as they try to manipulate language to get what they want. Because the whole argument is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh, no, he wasn't really in an insurrection just because he told everyone to go down there and fight like hell because otherwise they wouldn't have a country, and you're going to have to be tough, and you're going to have to do this. And no, that's not insurrection.
Just because he called all of them to Washington and said it's going to be wild, because that's the thing that a president, a leader of a country should say. Come to Washington, it's going to be wild.
I think in that language he was keeping himself clear of any future claims.
Plausible deniability. That's what it's all about. Plausible deniability. But we're talking about the 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, and we're talking about a lot of jurists on the Supreme Court who have always held a merit badge up to themselves saying, I am an originalist. I am an originalist, and I follow exactly what
I am textual, whatever the text says.
Right. That's what it is, and it never changes. I don't believe that. I think that it's an organic document. It has to change because we change, because there were muskets back then and there are machine guns now, so it has to reflect and take into consideration those changes. But the Supreme Court says that they're originalists. Okay, I'd like you to be an originalist right now, because this is exactly what the 53 words are in Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. The third section says this, 53 words, no person shall be a senator or a representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an official of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof.
Can I just stop you?
Yeah, sure. That's it.
Insurrection or rebellion.
Right.
So I don't know why we're arguing insurrection, whether it was or isn't. And it was certainly a rebellion.
It sure as hell was.
Everyone was rebelling against, they wanted to string up the vice president.
And January,
sounds like a rebellion.
January 6th was the day that he was supposed to certify the electors and basically call the election, make it official.
Yes.
That day. And they stopped that process. That's a rebellion. They smashed windows. They broke into the Capitol. They got down to the floor of Congress. They opened desks. They pulled out materials. They went into offices. They went into Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House. They went into her office. They stole her computer. So if the guy who called them to Washington and revved them up, and called in and then sat there and watched them desecrate this sacred altar of our freedom, of our democracy, and did nothing for 187 minutes, well over 3 hours, if he's not guilty, then who the hell is?
Then no one's guilty. Why is that freaking clause even in there?
Right, exactly.
Why have that clause? If the president can go and command this, small army to do his bidding,
yeah, exactly.
He's not guilty. Who is?
So let's think about for a second. If they rule in his favor, if they find some minuscule bit of wordsmithing, magic to get themselves out of this, if they take the coward's route and they allow him to remain on ballots and to become the president, allow an insurrectionist to become president, what are they saying for the rest of all eternity in terms of our laws, in terms of our Constitution? Number one, the Constitution, it's nice to have. We'll refer to it when we want to.
It's seen its day. We need to have a dictator.
Yeah,
because we need to get things done.
And it has value when you want to ensure that everyone can carry guns and AR-15s and things like that and kill each other. That's a value. We'll keep that. We'll keep that. But when it comes to what really constitutes somebody's worthiness of being a leader in this country, when it comes to the value of democracy and the value of truth, that doesn't count. That doesn't count because most of us, 6 of us on the Supreme Court, were picked by Republican presidents. He's a Republican. Yeah, he's a nut job, but he's our nut job. So it's okay. It forever defines the Supreme Court as corrupt as any ever has been or ever could be. So it ends any belief in the Supreme Court. And that's one of the 3 branches of our government. And it basically discounts it and makes it nothing. It also elevates, a lot of the people right now are saying, well, what really happened on January 6th was that was Antifa. It was the FBI. Yeah, the FBI did that. It basically says, yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, you're right. Let's go with the lie. Let's elevate the lie right now. Let's make sure that our Constitution and our nation is based on a lie. That's what they will be doing if they allow this man to run for president. So
first we got Bush Gore, that decision. And now it's time to meddle in the election again by allowing this guy, everyone knows, is not right. He is not right to be the president of the United States for any of many reasons.
Right.
He is not the right guy, but we're going to allow it because, we like him.
You mentioned Bush Gore, and I hate to say this, but it's a fact. Both Justice Roberts, Amy Coney Barrett, and Justice Kavanaugh were all lawyers back then working on the Bush versus Gore debacle. They were all part of that decision. They supported it. They helped to frame the case, and the Supreme Court ruled in the favor of Bush, even though he had 567,000 fewer votes than Al Gore did.
I don't think they actually ruled in favor of him. What they said is,
we've
been doing this long enough.
Right.
We've been doing this long enough. Let's just quit.
They stopped the count. That's exactly what happened. Of course, Gore did the honorable thing. He acted in favor of peaceful transfer of power. And boy, that had to be hard. But he did it. He did it. And, well, that's where we stand. That's where we stand, folks. We've got a lot of problems. If we can survive November 5th of this year, boy, do we have work to do.
If we can get there, great. Right now, we do not have that. If everyone votes we actually will get the president most people want.
We've got a shot. It's up to you.
We all want to be safe. We all want to be warm. We all want to feel loved, know the comfort of home. Want our children to grow, learn to make their own sound. Seems to me we all walk on common ground. Common ground, common ground. We all walk on common ground.
We all wanna be strong, fully free and alive. Take just enough chances, stand up tall and with pride. Yes, we all wanna play, have good friends all around. It seems to me we all walk on common ground. Common ground, common ground. We all walk
on common ground. Some conversations aren't easy, and we wonder how we'll turn this mess around. But if we realize and seek to compromise,
we sleep under one moon, lift our face to one sun, feel the wetness of rain, seek shelter, everyone. Yearn for rest when we're weary, seek solace when we're down. It seems to me we all walk on common ground.
Some conversations aren't easy,
and we wonder how we'll turn this mess around.
But if we realize and seek to compromise, we can meet on common ground. Common ground. We all walk on common ground. Common ground. Common ground. We all walk. I know that we all walk. One foot forward. We all walk on common ground.